Welcome everybody. I was quite amazed today to find out that this is nearly our 200th meetup, and next week it's 4 years since we created AWA. So I'm very pleased to be here tonight with Nairy, and we've known each other for, not that long, a few months, 6 months, something like that. But what really struck me about Nairy was her passion for change and to making working lives better, which obviously has been running through AWA for the last 4 years. So I'm very pleased that we get to co-create something with you tonight, and I'm hoping that this is going to be a little bit different than perhaps things that you're used to, but you'll see as we go through. But before we actually start, I would like to thank Moo. Thank you for hosting us. As always, these events are not possible without the support from businesses who can create this, give us this amazing space. And it's always a pleasure to be here with the colourful kind of the decor and all the stuff coming down. And I always know that every time I'm here, we're going to continue using you for our stationery and all of our stuff. So thank you for that. I'd also like to thank Peter here, who's going to be filming tonight, as all of our AWA things are filmed. And for those of you, I see so many familiar faces, probably you all know this already. I must have said this about 1 million times, or 200 times, that on our YouTube, all these things, all the past meetups and all that kind of thing are there. And so tonight is no different. Today, or this week, you may be or may not be aware that this is National or International Facilitation Week. So this is the perfect time to launch this new kind of series of meetups, which I'll explain later, around facilitation and systemic coaching, and we'll explain what those are. So this is kind of tied in with a whole set of international events. So you can feel part of something huge for tonight. Okay, good. So we have an agenda, and we are actually planning these things, which is always good to know. So we've already done the first part of the agenda, so always satisfying just to have a little tick on the task list. So we've done the first bit, which is eating food and networking, hanging out. So we can tick that one off. So we're going to have a look. I'm not going to take you all through this list because that would be tedious and boring. So if you want to have a quick read through the agenda, this is roughly the flow for this evening. Hello?
Just checking, do you need
no,
to be in the video?
Mm-hmm. Oh, do I need to be in the video?
Yeah, because you're not captured.
Me?
To be in to be seen in the video.
Oh, okay.
So just checking.
Oh, I didn't know that. So am I out of the video here? Or am I in? Ah. Oh, there's the video. This is the video thing here. No, this is something else. Okay, no, we're in the video. Okay, cool. So we're all in the video. Thank you for that, because that would have been really weird on the YouTube thing. It's just this ghost voice coming through. But luckily we're good. We can stand anywhere. But thank you for that. Okay, right. So enough of the agenda. So we're going to be doing loads of stuff basically, and it follows an order. Okay. I wanted to talk to you a bit about where I see Agile right now, and the current approach that I'm seeing in organisations and through the community and across the industry in general. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm the founder of AWA, and I have the very fortunate position of being able to work across multiple different client sites through our consultancy. I've also been very fortunate position to work with people all over the world who bring different ideas and frameworks and coaching techniques and things from all over the world. And what I'm seeing is a very similar pattern in the Agile industry. And unfortunately, what I'm seeing is that we're being less effective as an industry, not you particularly, but as an industry we're being less effective than some of the sort of dreams and the hopes which I certainly had when I came into kind of organisational change. And it's a lot harder than I first thought. And certainly this seems to be the case. And I think the main reason for this is because the systemic thinking as it's evolved has kind of always had one thread in common, that there's some kind of expert, there's some kind of leader or agile coach the latest things, the Agile coach being the expert, but this has gone back many, many years that we have the expert up the front, a bit like kind of me standing here now, and this kind of like, this approach is, unfortunately, when it comes to things like self-organisation, the expert telling you to self-organise is kind of like there's something odd going on there. And what I'm seeing is this idea that as leaders, as our own leadership and our own Agile coaching function is to kind of sell these ideas to leadership. And I get asked this all the time on classes, how do I sell stuff to leadership? How do I convince people that we need to be doing Agile? And unfortunately, I think this is self-defeating. And the more that we try and sell Agile or sell anything to our organisations, then we're going to get resistance, and we're not going to get the same kind of collaboration that we had hoped, the same kind of engagement. So if we want to engage organisations into doing something different, then it needs to really come from within and not from some kind of expert. Oh, we've lost sound. No, there we go. From some kind of expert pushing ideas, selling frameworks, that kind of thing. So this is kind of how I'm seeing things at the moment. So what could it be like? So instead of kind of selling Agile and selling these ideas or selling frameworks or pushing these kind of pre-packaged ideas, then we really need to be talking about actual real business results. This might seem a bit obvious, but it's quite amazing actually how, as an industry, we're actually not. We're actually saying, how agile can we be? How agile are we? What are we doing to measure the agility? When really we should be looking at how successful we are as a business and what kind of results that we're actually looking for. So if we I'm not going to go too much into what those results might be, because for every company or industry, this is it's unique and different, even though actually they're quite similar across many businesses. So if we break down results into two different types of challenge, we've got on one side we have things like environment or process, things which are obvious, things which are out there, things like process, things like job roles, things like artifacts or meetings that we're turning up to. We've got this kind of challenge that we need to do. We need to have tools, we need to have these things, but we also have another kind of challenge, which is people. So this is how we turn up. This is the behaviour, the interaction that we have to our work and to others around us. These are the kind of individuals and interactions which we have in the organisation. And so from an Agile perspective, if you look at, we know the Agile Manifesto, individuals and interactions over processes and tools. This gives us a way to understand which is our challenge that we could be focusing on first. What do we need to look at first? And really clearly, if we get good people who are interacting well, who have really good teams, then we can overcome the kind of process and tooling issues. But when we don't have good interactions, when we have negative or toxic environments, or simply environments where someone's gone in and is selling stuff or telling people how to behave, then we're actually not going to really be able to solve the problems on the left here, the process problems, very well. So, I'd like to introduce you to two concepts. Some of these, I see some people kind of nodding a little bit. So what we have here is this Dunning-Kruger effect, which is this kind of nice curve here. And the Dunning-Kruger effect is a human bias. Now, we all suffer from this. And the idea of the Dunning-Kruger effect bias is that when we really don't know something, when we're really quite ignorant about any subject, then we have a tendency to have a very high confidence about whatever it is, because we simply don't have even the breadth of knowledge to be able to understand that we're actually quite clueless. Now, most organisations have this effect about Agile and about the changes that are required to be able to meet complex adaptive problems that they face. Now, an example of this is talking to perhaps a senior manager who says, yeah, I get Agile, I get what we need to do, just go away and get everybody to do Agile. Go and install that framework. And then that will solve all our problems. So this is a natural effect that everybody goes through. So why am I telling you this? Because what's happened in our industry is that we have, over the last few years, been exploring different ways to approach these problems. And because people problems are so difficult to talk about, we don't have vocabulary. They're not the kind of problems that most managers want to accept that they exist. Now, talking about technical problems is easy. Now we know that there's a culture around solving technical problems, but not around people problems. So if you combine these two things together, this gives the industry a perfect opportunity to sell a load of tools and frameworks and processes to organisations who are very high confident about what they want, and it gives an amazing commercial opportunity to do stuff which is very ineffective. And this is the state I see the Agile industry right now. I see that we have, over the last few years, we've been exploring tools and processes as a solution to try and solve people issues, and it doesn't work. And what happens is we spend about 14 months doing a change cycle, and it fails or doesn't live up to the promise that we'd hoped for. And so we need to do something different, right? Because that doesn't feel good to me. That's not what it's about. So what happens is most organisations are in this place, and most solutions being sold are kind of taking us into this valley of despair, and that's kind of where we've been at so far. So what can we do about this? Well, actually, what presentation would be complete without a deal, but if you would like to read that. This is the kind of challenge that managers have. They're stuck because we don't have the vocabulary and the ability and the techniques and tools to be able to rationalize and normalize emotions, normalize the way that we interact, that kind of talk about relationships, but we're also getting the process. We know we have to have psychological safety, we must have self-organization, we must do these things, and yet we definitely can't talk about change or emotions or human beings as being anything other than part of the machine. We're just going to install stuff on top of them, and we end up with this, which is basically a complete trap. And people don't know what to do because they're stuck on this Dunning-Kruger effect of high confidence and low knowledge. So what can we do about this? So many of you may have come across the Agile Onion. So I'm not going to take you through the Onion. There's loads of stuff online about this. But what I will say is that what we're doing is that we are focusing on tools and processes, and what really the problems are in the principles, the values, and the mindset. So we're really, really good at trying to solve these bottom inner layers, but we're pretty rubbish at being able to actually address in a proper systemic way solving these areas of the outer onion. So the Agile mindset, some of you may have come across the Agile mindset as defined by these 3 beliefs. So pretty much any dysfunction in an organisation that when we're trying to improve that organisation that is solving complex adaptive problems, using tools like Lean or Agile, any challenge that we have, any dysfunction can pretty much be traced back to someone of influence who didn't believe one or more of these things. So this Agile mindset maps into the Lean principles. It matches into the Agile Manifesto. And the first one, complexity belief, is the belief that complex adaptive problems are not predictable. If we believe we're solving non-predictable problems, then you kind of have that complexity belief. And there's a whole load of stuff that then would affect your behaviour if you believe the stuff that we're doing is non-predictable. The second one is people belief. This is the belief that we actually want to trust people, and the belief that people are actually, most people, 99% of people if you like, are actually there to do a good job, and we approach that with unconditional positive regard. So if we don't have that belief, we're going to start putting in processes to protect the organisation against people and that kind of thing. And the last one is the proactive belief of self-improvement. So self-improvement proactive belief of improvement in general. So there's self-improvement, there's improvement of our teams, our processes, our organisation, our products, our services. It's continuous improvement. So with these 3 beliefs, we have some chance of solving complex adaptive problems at scale. So if we go down to values, then what we have here is we know from Alistair Coburn's work back in the late 90s that psychological safety is absolute key in being able to have high performance. And there's also the Google Aristotle project and things like that. Now, the 4 things in the middle here, respect, equality, inclusion and diversity. We can't create innovation without these values. And you don't get these values unless we have some kind of safety. So what we're looking for is something to allow people to respect each other, to be able to say that thing, the elephant in the room, the thing that no one else wants to talk about, that crazy idea that might just be the next breakthrough. Without that kind of inclusion and diversity of thought and opinion, then we're not really going to be able to solve complex adaptive problems. And then the top one up here, this big long green block, this is about emotional self-management. It's the willingness to try and manage our own emotional responses, because when we do have diverse opinions, when we do have inclusion, we are going to hear things which rock our boat. And that's going to elicit a psychological stress response and an emotional response, and we would need to be willing to actually manage that within ourselves so that we can still work as a team. So these are the kind of values which we need to which are conducive to solving complex adaptive problems. So with all of this, what we're looking for is some kind of thing to tie these together. Some kind of thing which is going to allow us at scale to tie all this stuff, to have a really good mindset, to understand what the beliefs are, to work together, create diversity, listen to different opinions, include everybody so that everybody has equal voice, so that we can come up with a solution that works for everyone, rather than doing stuff to people, being the expert and dropping frameworks on the top of people. So with that in mind, that we need something else, I would like to hand over to Nairy, who will talk to us about systemic coaching.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Oh yeah, I've never used one of these, so wish me well. Systemic coaching. Right, thank you very much, AWA and Simon and all of you for making it tonight, even though there's tube strikes and all sorts of problems. So Simon has just given you an overview of what the lay of the land is for Agile. Here's the thing that I know about Agile. I know that this morning I was having a coffee and I heard a couple of parents talking about hiring a nanny, and they were looking for someone who had Agile characteristics. So it means different things for different people. And obviously we're all adopting that word, Agile, because it's very nice. It sounds positive, it sounds hopeful, it sounds like it's a solution to being in a stuck situation. So I'm going to talk about systemic coaching and who we are. Just before we do that, I'm going to set some context about who I am. As Simon said, my name is Nairy McMahon. I'm the director of CRR UK. CRR stands for Centre for Right Relationship, and we are in a global community, CRR Global. CRR Global own a training model, which is called ORSC, Organisation and Relationship Systems Coaching. The way that they work, that CRR Global, is that they have 12 partners globally who deliver the training, and I'm one of those people who do it, here in the UK and in the Nordic countries. So what can I tell you about what's next? ORSC. So it's a model that, actually, before I go there, let me just go back and say my story to ORSC. So I am a trained psychologist, but moved into banking about 16 years ago. I think one of the greatest things about working in a bank is that you really get to understand every lending decision you make and the impact it has on the wider world. So if you say yes to a business loan, you know the implications. If you say no to a business loan, you know the implications. If you decide to exit a country, you know the implications. So systemic view of what is going on wider than the decision I'm making is always present. The second thing is that there's nothing you can do in the bank unless you are in relationship, not only with your clients externally, but internally. Every decision requires a whole chain of decision makers, and you have to be very masterful at working at relationships, knowing that sometimes you're not going to get on with them, but how do you make the vision that you have, the thing that you want to get done, how do you make that happen? Then I moved to the UK, and for a little while I worked with enterprises and set up an investment portfolio. And then in 2011, after a very tough negotiation with someone, I decided to do coaching to see how you can bring coaching lens into business. It was individual coaching. Again, it was great to learn some tools, but it didn't really grab or did the connection between what was going on in the business world as well as the individual. So then that's when I came across ORSC, Organisation and Relationship Systems Coaching. It is a systemic lens. It looks at the relational aspect. It uses coaching framework to support the relationship building and the view of what systemic looks like. If you want to understand does anybody here know what it is, what systemic thinking is, what it means? Would you like to have a go? No? So you don't want to have a go? Well, maybe if I read you this thing, it will explain what a systemic thing is. I think it's really funny. Does everyone know about the World Health Organization cat dropping experience in the 50s? So in the 1950s, there was a classic example of failure to use whole system thinking when the World Health Organization tried to help a tribe on the island of Borneo. A mosquito and housefly infestation had caused an outbreak of malaria, and WHO sent planes to spray the island with DDT, which is the pesticide. The DDT killed all the mosquitoes, but also a species of wasp that preyed on thatched-eating caterpillars. With no wasps to dine on them, the caterpillars munched away on the thatched roof of the tribe's people's homes until the roofs caved in. Worse, the poison houseflies were eaten by the island's geckos, and the sickened geckos became easy eating for the cats. When the cats died from the accumulated DDT, the population of rats flourished. The result, outbreaks of typhus and plague. Faced with a health situation more dire than the original problem, WHO set in motion Operation Cat Drop, promptly solving the crisis it inadvertently created by parachuting 14,000 live cats onto the island. That is kind of like a big picture statement about what it is not to consider things from a systemic way. There is no cause and effect. So solving one problem will cause other things to come up. That's not just organizational or community focused, that is individuals as well. Sometimes we don't like something about ourselves and we try to get rid of it or hide it, but it comes up in another way. Let me just grab that, thank you. So, what's ORSC? It's Organizational Relationship Systems Coaching. It's an ICF accredited coach training program, so International Coach Federation. It's been running as a coaching program since 2002. It's a training program. It teaches you 40 tools and 27 skills to work with every type of relationship that you can think of. So we use both a philosophical framework as well as a coaching framework. One of the most important things about ORSC is that it focuses on not just looking at what is going on outside of you. Every interaction that we have with someone else has an impact on us. So we create the coaching space for people to consider how they are in relationship with other people and how the relationship that they have with people impact the way that the organization or the project works. We do large-scale facilitation, so anything from 2 people all the way up to hundreds of people, that's the facilitation that we do. We use all the skills that I just mentioned, which includes how to facilitate a facilitation, large-scale facilitation. Context setting, all facilitators have it. Context setting, do an activity, come back from the activity having practiced, and do a debrief to see how it was for you. That's a normal facilitation process. With ORSC lens, you come in with a belief as well as the doing stuff of facilitation. So generally facilitations facilitate the conversation without holding any position. Although we don't hold any position, we come in from a belief that the system knows exactly what it is that it wants to do. By system we mean the team or the organization or the group, whatever it is in front of us. We reflect everything that we hear. We act as a mirror so that the system can start seeing itself and adjusting as it sees fit for whatever it is that it wants to do. We also we create containers, and it's in that container that the coaching takes place. Yes, I was. Okay. So with every systems, because systems, does everyone know what systems are? Systems can go as big as a political system and as small as an individual. So if you are coaching a system, you need to define the container, create a boundary so that the team that's in front of you knows where the boundary is. And for us, a system is a group of interdependent people with a common identity or goal. They have to be interdependent, so relying on each other, and they have to either have a common purpose or a common identity. To give you an example, if you're on a tube and there's lots of people who are sitting around, they're just people sitting around. But if something happens in the tube and they need to leave because there is an accident or something, the people become interdependent so that they can get out because they have a common identity. Yeah? Okay, I'm rushing along. So that's the first thing. We're always setting a container of what we're doing. The second thing is creating ground rules. We do this as a co-creation between the system that we are coaching and us. So for this evening, as we're going to be trying to do something with Simon and I are going to be running a program for you to experience what it's like to be coached by a systems coach. And for us, just for this evening, we've got some ground rules, and the ground rules is confidentiality. We use that word all the time. It just means whatever you need from each other to feel safe to try whatever it is we're going to ask you to try in a minute. The second one is a rule for ORSC, which is everyone is right, only partially. And I'm pausing here because just to land the learning, it just means that for a system to see itself, everybody has an opinion, and the opinion must be heard, but it is only partially true. It's not the whole truth. None of us hold the full truth. No judgment. Please hold curiosity and have a learning mindset. Do you want to do the edge model together?
I'm slightly nervous. Okay, what would you like me to? How would you like me to be?
So Simon and I have done the course together. So everything that he spoke about is about change. There's change within the Agile system. When you're doing within your own community, there's also change in the transformation work that you are doing. So change is in every organization. And there are lots of change models. We use a very simple change model that Arnold Mindell created. And all it is going from, there are 3 stages, going from your primary, what you know right now, to your secondary, which is your future. And the edge is what needs to be crossed to get across. So do you want to give an example of what a primary and a secondary is?
Yeah, okay. Okay, not on the spot at all. My primary might be really comfortable in sitting over there because I was nicely out of the way there. And now suddenly I'm in the limelight. Now I kind of quite like the limelight a little bit, but it's a bit out of my comfort zone. You know, there's a part of me that really, really wants to go back and sit back over here because this was nice and safe. But I also know that if we're actually going to make a good presentation here, I really kind of need to be out here, and there's a bit of an edge in the middle that I'm going to have to cross and actually get up and be out here and be in my secondary, which hopefully, if I get used to this, then may turn into my future primary. Is that a good example?
I think it's a great example. It's a great example. Okay, so this is what happens when there's teams, though. So Simon just went through his own personal edge. And he had his own belief systems about what he thought of himself, and all of a sudden I made him get up, and he had to shift that belief system. Just imagine when you're doing some kind of a change program in an organization. Every single individual person is having their own reaction to the change. And every single team is having a reaction to the change that the organization has just announced. And every single team has their own past and future expectations. So that is what it looks like in an organizational context. So sometimes when you think it's a great idea and you get the team across, but nobody else in the organization is doing it, it's because they're all crossing the edges at different times. And for an organization to go from primary, what is known, to its secondary, it has to have more than 40% of the teams or people agreeing to the change, unless, of course, there's a global reason for it to be forced into a change position. Yeah?
Okay.
Agile and change. Now, the reason why we did that is for you to know that there's change all the time and you're always going to be moving from your primary to your secondary, and we're going to practice a tool using Constellation as a tool to see how the Agile community is moving from their primary position to the secondary. Okay?
Awesome. So how we're going to do this is we're going to do this in a couple of stages. So the first one is we're going to self-organise to move all of these chairs to the side, out the way. We're going to be very mindful. But just before we go, because there's actually another step first, so sorry, we're going to self-organise all the chairs. So we're going to create this lovely big space here. We're also going to be very mindful of our cameraman, who's going to be in the middle, and he's going to be mobbed by hundreds of people carrying chairs. So he's just going to move the camera to the back there. So if we can make sure that we don't knock him over with all his kit, that would be fantastic. And then what we're going to do is we're going to, Nairy and I are going to facilitate this constellation. So you may be aware of constellations. However, even if you are, please keep an open mind, because we're going to be layering on some stuff into that. And we're really going to be asking you to kind of look into your own growth and your own kind of edge, if you like. And then after this exercise, we're going to come back again and we're going to put our seats back again. So when you're stacking them up, bear that in mind. We've actually got to get them back again. So that could be something to bear in mind. And then we're just going to finish off with about 5-10 minutes close. Does that sound good?
Okay. So how many of you have done a constellation before? Yay. Okay, quite a few of you. Systems always constellate around a topic. I mean, just think about a family system. You've got to go on holiday, everyone constellates around the topic, which is holiday. And we are constantly constellating. We constellate at work because, that we have to buy a present for someone who's leaving. So that's constellation. There are many forms of constellation. The one that we're going to be using tonight is informal constellation. So basically, what you're going to be doing is Simon and I are going to read out a statement, and then you're going to be constellating around that topic. So if you feel very strongly about the topic, which is going to be laid in the middle, you come really, really close. And if you feel not so sure about it, you stand here. And if you don't, it doesn't work for you at all, you stand very far away. So this gives a snapshot of what the whole system thinks about that particular topic. We're going to have 3 rounds. Each time it's a silent exercise, except when we ask you questions. We're going to ask a few of you to speak. Not all of you will be speaking because of time constraint. And then we'll constellate again. And then, as Simon said, we'll come back and have a conversation around it.
So,
okay?
So once again, if I have strong feelings about the topic, I'm in the middle.
Yeah.
If I completely don't care...
No, you stand out there.
So is it feelings about it, or is it an agreement?
Connected, do you feel?
Do you feel? Okay. And would it be helpful if I made a middle?
Sure.
Okay. This is the middle. And what else would I use other than a post-it note?
And
Exactly.
so the topic is?
Yes. So the topic, is so this is the question, which I'm happy to explain afterwards if it doesn't make sense. How connected do you feel to the current opportunity space in Agile? So everyone's going, what is he talking about? So let me explain. So the current opportunity space. So how much opportunity, and tell me if this is the original intention, how much opportunity have you got as a change agent? You may be a coach, you may be a leader in an organisation, a manager, or whatever your role is absolutely independent to this. So how much opportunity do you feel you have to be able to make a difference, to be able to make working lives better, to be able to improve your organisation? Does that make sense?
So Simon, yeah. Simon talk about all the opportunity that exists for you right now. So just let your feelings, you heard what you just said, let your feelings just guide.
Yeah.
It's not a cognitive exercise.
Yeah. Okay, so that means those people who are closer to the middle feel that they have a high opportunity space for being able to experiment and do things within their organisation. The people who are further away from the middle feel that they have a lower opportunity to be able to try out things and do things and to improve their organisation and make working life better, I guess.
Sure. So we're going to ask some questions, just 2 questions. So for those of you who are standing close to the centre, why are you standing where you're standing and what's that like? Just from a few of you, why are you standing where you're standing and what's that like?
Should we give the mic? And I'll give you a mic as well. And also, whilst we're doing this, have a look around as well. This is the shape of the Agile community.
There's no more space.
That's something as well.
We're near the top of Mount Stupid, so there's loads of opportunity.
And what's that like?
Stupid.
Someone else?
I think we're climbing Mount Stupid, so we've got a long way to go. So anywhere from where we're starting is going to be improvement. So
And what's that like?
inspiring, I think, for myself personally.
Great. From someone else? Does anyone else want to speak?
I'm starting in a new role as an Agile coach on my first outing as an Agile coach, so I feel really inspired for the person I'm really working for, so that's why I feel I'm here in the middle. It feels really good.
That's great.
I'm working as an Agile coach, and the organisation I'm working with at a stage where they're trying lots of experiments, so they're willing to really find out more about Agile, so there's lots of opportunity at the moment.
So what's that like?
Good, yeah, feels really good.
Feels really good. Okay. So we just, for someone just a little bit further out from the circle, anybody outside who wants to speak?
If you would like to speak, if you would like to put your hand up, then I
Yeah.
can pass you the thing. We've got one here. Did you want to speak? Or? No? Okay.
There's a person.
There we go, thank you.
Why are you standing where you're standing and what's that like?
So I'm standing in the middle.
Yep.
Because the organisation that I'm working at as an Agile coach has been doing XP for about 12 years. But they're scaling now. And so it's quite difficult to break some of their original things that were helping them when they were much smaller and didn't need to communicate as much. And helping them build practices that support a larger group is challenging but making progress at the same time. So it feels scary.
Feels scary. Okay. Anyone else?
Feel free to raise your hand.
Yep.
Don't be shy. Okay, everyone here.
So I'm also third row because I'm in an organisation where they have been doing an Agile transformation for about 12 months or so, so they're well under Mount Stupid and into the, God, this is going to go on and quite the moment I'm probably with them, they might be going at this forever if they don't pick up some better scalable behaviours because they're also trying to scale their Agile, but they're doing the bump into the, we've done it all nicely in development, now what about the rest of the organisation?
And how do you
So
feel?
what's that like?
It's exciting, but it's actually incredibly draining because when you look at the landscape, there's such a lot that needs to change. It's that classic dip of kind of like, wow, there's a lot, is where I'm at. So it's kind of intimidating, but also exciting.
Okay.
Good.
So I'm working with companies who are generally going through an enterprise transformation. The problem really I'm still out here is the opportunities are kind of limited for change due to implementing a framework. So a lot of the focus is on the framework, the training, and putting in place rather than the behaviours and mindset. So it's kind of frustrating and challenging because the opportunity is kind of limited.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I I'm
Oops.
motivated
Oh,
to
sorry.
speak because I'm the most on the outside, I think.
Yeah.
I'm a backend developer, not a part of management in my current company, and there's plenty of people who are managing, so they completely will listen to me. Company is doing like plenty companies that I've met. They say they do Agile, but they completely don't do any Agile. There's just Jira and something called Sprints, which is not Sprint. Okay, sorry, it's too long. I had an opportunity to work with great Agile companies where I've learned what Agile is, understood and believed. And I'm trying to push Agile practices on the management all the time, but they are extremely, not push, convince them, but they're extremely stubborn and don't want to listen. On last one-to-one, when I proposed that estimation shouldn't be in days made by me based on a story title of a user story, which is not a user story, and I completely don't understand it and have no clue about the scope of it. I proposed estimating story points, and I was told by my brilliant manager of online development team that she doesn't care if I estimate story points or bananas.
What's that like for you? What's that like for you?
I care about doing my job, and I like my job, and I'm trying to keep up to my estimations and my personal estimations. I know my position in this place, but I know my position in this place, and as everyone satisfied. I would love to work in a company with smart people. Yes, where I can. Developers are smart, management isn't. Okay, so I won't tell you where I work.
It's one for
And
you.
I would love everybody to be smart, it would give me more pleasure, but I'm sitting comfortable where I'm sitting, and I know that's my decision, and I'm feeling okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. Thank you. Anybody else? All right, so we're going to go to the second question. So how present is the opportunity space for Agile in your day-to-day work? How present is the opportunity space for Agile, you called it something special, for Agile in your day-to-day work?
Yeah.
So how connected you feel was the first question,
Yeah,
and how
second.
present is it in your day-to-day work?
Yeah. Does everybody understand the difference between the two questions? Yeah? No? Okay. Right, so the first question is, how connected do you feel to that opportunity space in general? And then the second question is, how present is this opportunity in your work now? I think I might have messed up the first question slightly.
In your day-to-day work.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So how much is this in your day-to-day work now? So how much? Is that clear? I'm still feeling like we've kind of lost half the people. No.
Stand close if you feel that it's present in your day-to-day work, and further out if it's not.
Yeah.
It exists as a word.
Mm-hmm.
What did he say?
I think that I might have made this confusing by making this connected to their work already. So these are very similar questions. I think I might have screwed this up. It might have been a learning opportunity for me.
Yeah. So has it changed? Do you want to have a look at the Constellation?
In our day-to-day work.
In your day-to-day work.
Yeah,
Your
so this is
day-to-day
in your
work.
day-to-day work. Yeah. Okay.
So can I ask you, the center's there, you're standing, no, the center is here. Okay.
Yeah.
Has anyone shifted? Did people shift?
Yeah, there's a few
Okay.
shifts. Okay.
So if someone who's shifted would like to say something,
Yeah.
yep.
Okay.
What's it like where
Thanks.
you're standing? Why are you standing where you're standing, and what's that like?
I was over there before because I don't feel that connected to it, because I work in a place where I think everyone feels that they are agile.
Right.
And so when you try to give advice, they fall on their face.
Right.
And I'm moving here because I think the opportunity is huge, because there are loads of ways to improve that they're not kind of listening to. So the way I interpreted it was, I'm struggling, but I think it can be.
Yeah.
The opportunity is everywhere.
What's that like?
And when I was over there, it's really frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
And demoralising.
Mm-hmm.
Here, it kind of, it's a bit more uplifting. It's a big balance. It's nice to work with.
Okay. Anybody else? Yep.
So I was out there because I was thinking of 10 years ago I would have been at the centre given that first question, but it feels like we're not doing it as well today as we were doing it 10 years ago, and that's very, very frustrating. It almost feels like we are failing. But in my day-to-day work, which is the bit of the question here that I've picked up on, is I get the opportunity to work with a lot of people doing this kind of stuff, so I feel closer to the centre on this question.
Okay, what's that like?
It was nice to come in and get closer to people.
Okay, anyone else? There's a gentleman behind you.
So I shifted because the organization I work for right now used to be very agile, very good at it, and then all of a sudden because of growth, they're growing so fast that it's starting to become chaotic, because then, all those good stuff that got them to where they are right now to be able to grow so fast is now getting out of the window. And I feel like it's becoming very chaotic, and, they should imbibe all this great stuff that they used to do, learning, all those great type of stuff should still be at the core of the business and not lose it really, because it's also a continuous learning process and actuating as opposed to, we're good at this now, let's throw it out the window and then overdo it basically almost, so to speak.
Sure. And what's that like?
It's very chaotic, very destructive as well, so yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? Yeah? Okay.
So I shifted towards centre. I work in my day-to-day team. I work in an Agile team. It's Scrum Matt. I think much like the guy in the blue shirt who spoke earlier, you get frustrated on suggestions falling in their ears. So our retro today, we hear people saying, we tried that a couple of years ago, so let's not do it again. So that feels a bit frustrating. In terms of kind of the wider environment that I work with colleagues, it's also here today. I think it's encouraging that we're closer to the centre. I think across our organisation there's areas that are kind of less mature and agile, so there are opportunities outside my team, colleagues' teams to grow, to do other things.
And what's that like for you?
Day-to-day within my team can be a bit frustrating, but I think you just see opportunities elsewhere across the organisation to help contribute.
Thank you. There was a gentleman here. Sorry, I'll just grab that.
I moved to the centre, but it's probably not for the same reasons as some of the rest of you. I was out at the age before when it was how connected do you feel to the agile opportunity space, because I'm objecting a little bit at the minute to a lot of the words that people are using in the language and the kind of poison systemic agile. And I'm more interested in solving problems and collaboration and finding how it work. But I've moved to the centre now because most of the conversations I have with people coaching different organisations are still about selling Agile or them trying to buy Agile. It's a thing. So I do it every day. I'm not happy about it. I'd rather talk to people about solving problems.
Okay. What's that like for you?
Not happy about it.
Not happy about it. Okay.
I think it's trying to find a different language for people and trying to think about what we're actually trying to do rather than what we're trying to sell.
Sure. Okay. Does anyone else want to speak, or shall we go to the third question? Yep. Yeah. So here's the question.
So the third question is, how present would you like it to be? So if you think what we're actually asking is, there's the opportunity space for being able to make real change, things that address the kind of emotional, kind of systemic relationship side of things, how people interact and behave, and how people show up. That's what we're talking about. So how present would you like that to be within your work?
We almost like
Okay, so I'm kind of assuming from this big huddle that people on the outside like kind of are wanting to be even further on the inside because we're kind of as close as we can be. So what we're going to do is, in the intro, sorry?
Do you want to hear from a few people?
Yeah. Should we let's hear from a few people? Okay, so I'm actually going to come all the way around here just to make a complete change and see if there's anybody who would like to talk roughly in the middle somewhere, but I'm going to do it from the back because I think that might shake things up. If you want to raise your hand, if you would like to speak about where you are right now. We'll start from the middle and we'll work out. Don't be shy.
Hi, I guess I'm feeling pretty lucky at the moment because I'm in the middle of the hole for all three questions. And I really think that's because we've been on a long transformation at the company I'm at, 3.5 years. You're right, agile transformation, it never ends, right? Because we're always continuously improving. It will never end. But I think where I am at the moment is I think we've reached that tipping point at the company where people are starting to realize that this is not going away. And the laggards, so we've done the early adopters, we've now got the laggards who are now coming along and going, okay, we're on board. And our pull right now is bigger than we've ever had to deal with. So hang in there, troops.
What's that like?
Awesome!
Anyone else?
Anyone else?
So similarly, I've also been in the middle for all three questions. The first time is because I've just started a new job as leading transformation, and I feel really positive because I've just joined the company, so I'm in that phase where like I'm kind of a bit fearless, and I have this like false hope. But actually, I'm really hopeful because the management team in the organisation that I work in, they've actually gone through the transformation journey for the last couple of years. And so a bit back sort of the diagram I saw earlier about sort of processes and installing tooling, etc. I think people do that at first because that's almost like the easiest thing to do, and that's the most measurable thing to do. And I feel really excited because I'm going to come in and I'm going to take risks essentially and focus on the people side of things, which is hard to measure. But if I focus on the outcome, I think that's the crucial thing to get right. Is the communication, is the collaboration. Very happy to be in the middle.
What's that like? Happy. Okay, great. You said happy. Anybody else? Yeah. Yay. Anybody else?
Anybody else further out who would like to express their view? Okay, if you wouldn't mind passing the mic over that way, please.
Do you want to do this or not? Normally what you do is you talk in pairs for next section, or do you want to leave it and do it together?
So I think at work right now I'm in a bit of an agile bubble, and what that means is that the team that I'm working with and the teams that I'm working with are turning up as themselves, and we're working really well together. So I think from a lot of the feedback that we've got as well, everyone feels that they're in that kind of agile environment that we want to get to, where the mindset is really there. It would be great if the rest of the organisation could also turn up like that too. So I think where I'd like it to get to is where everyone in a company turns up without wearing a mask. So I think the people that I work with on a day-to-day basis turn up as themselves, and that's great. So people working on self-awareness, the emotional intelligence side of things would be amazing. So that's where we're at.
What's that like?
It's good because of the team that I work with, the people that I work with. It shows that there's a lot of potential. People can tap into that. A bit frustrating because you see so many people turning up with the mask on.
Okay, thank you.
Is
Anyone
there
else?
Anyone else? One more maybe? That's over here.
I think I've got a probably slightly different background to a lot of you guys. My background is manufacturing, and came across into these kind of service industries. And I'm feeling really inspired by what's going on at the moment, because what I'm noticing is so many people talk about Agile that it's almost bedded in now. I think, you know, we speak to developers that join the company, and they're all talking about it as in, it's not something new, it's something that's in the background for everyone. And I know there's a lot of concern about the way Agile might get implemented, and therefore micro-efficiency has become another fad that drops out of favour. But I don't think that's going to be an option, because what they're going to go back to is command control project management that is demonstrably failing anyway. So as much as there may be a lot of angst amongst ourselves as to are they doing it the right way, it will be a very long path of a couple of decades or more, but it will keep moving in the right direction, and that's why I feel positive. It took 70 years for Lean to get into manufacturing. It's going to take 70 years for Agile to embed itself. So we're in year, what, 10? So, your entire career and your children's career and their children's career before we get there. That's not a bad thing, it's a journey, not a destination.
What's that like for you?
What's that like?
That's why I'm inspired.
Great.
I was so frustrated for 10 years in finance, and then this is happening. It's really good.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to go on to the fourth part now. And this one we're going to, you can take a bit of a step out and go, whew, that was a bit awesome. Okay, so the fourth question, we're actually going to do this in pairs. So we're going to do this in pairs, and we're going to have you are going to have a conversation in your pairs around what needs to happen for you to be able to move to being able to bring this stuff into your day-to-day. What is it going to take for you to be able to embody this and be able to work in this way and your teams to work in this way? Does that make sense? So what would it take? What steps or what needs to happen to move from one place to the other? And you can think about this in yourselves and also the industry as well.
Have a conversation with each other, and then just take one action that you will do that's going to take you to have this more in your life, whatever that was.
Okay.
Okay.
So if you want to find a pair, find another person, and then you'll automatically create a pair.
You can continue with the conversation after the session. Sounds like you're all having a good time. Okay, so we're going to now sit down and have a debrief about the process that you just went through. So shall we just get the chairs back again? Or
Yeah, sounds good.
Want to sit down as well, Simon? So what was that like? What was that experience like, seeing yourself constellate around a topic?
Good. It's good. It was really good. It was really interesting to hear people's opinions and thoughts, and also the second question, how are you feeling? I think it was really interesting and really insightful, and it's a way to get quite a lot of understanding from a large group of people very quickly.
Yep. Can I ask you, how would you use this at work? Would you use this at work?
That's what I was thinking as I was standing there. Absolutely, I would,
yeah.
And probably with the leadership team to kind of benchmark and be transparent with each other where they are. So in terms of the three beliefs, I think that will be surfaced pretty quickly.
Yep. Anyone else? Thank you.
I think this exercise really makes you think, because in a day-to-day work you're just working, helping, self-organizing, but actually when these questions come up, you think, how are you using this in your day-to-day work? And it really helps you to sort of come up with those examples of how your work is, and it helps you reflect on what things you need to change. So it's quite an exciting exercise, and just to hear everyone's views. A lot of people are in the same boat. I think, like you said, I think we're all in quite similar boats where we're sort of not sure, but we want to make a difference. So it was a good exercise.
Thank you. Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. Thank you for sharing these techniques. I think for me, on a journey where I've been I've been experiencing some of this with Simon's help last few months. Some of my classmates are here as well, so we've been on this journey. But taking it to the workplace, I think that last question, what I'm going to do is take more risks. I think that's one thing that's done for me. If you don't take risks and do this, you're going to be stuck in the same boat. Well, definitely that's something I reflect with. So, thank you.
Thank you. Oh, the chap behind you. Will you just, yeah. So, yeah.
I'm quite interested in how the Constellation thing might work with different size groups, how people know each other versus people who don't. So quite a big group, not that many people know each other, a little bit anonymous, seem to work really, really well. I'm wondering if you were in a room with 12 people who were working on the same team or the board of somewhere, what kind of behaviours might come out of it. I think I'm really interested to try and see how people behave.
Do you want me to answer that? Because what? Because we ask people to move. So first of all, the ground rules. We get the ground rules right. It's a non-judgmental zone. The idea is to see where the system is, not where individuals are. So we never focus on where someone is standing. The idea is for the system to see where the system itself is constellating so that it can make choices of where it wants to go. The last question is accountability for the individual, but again from a systemic perspective. And what happens is we've done this once with a board who were all saying yes for the mission until we did the constellation, and nobody stood next to in the center. And what they decided to do is clearly they're not communicating, they're just saying yes to things. It just reveals the system in a very different way. But you do need to set the ground conditions. There has to be some level of buy-in before you do it. You couldn't just do it if there was hostility or anything. Okay.
Does it make a difference if the boss is in the room?
It always makes a difference when somebody is in the room that may influence the way the system wants to behave. But again, that is something that we contract right from the start. So if the boss is going to have that kind of effect, he generally is not, we ask him not to attend. It just depends on the impact of the system. And again, that's information for the system. So if the boss is there and the system is changing, it's information for him, it's information for the system. Any other applications or any other learnings?
Thank you for sharing. That's the first time I've done that. I come from an HR and organisational background, so I just stepped into this wonderful community and I got accredited. What I loved about that was a couple of things. One, that it was an emotional thing, so you're not asking to rate it and you're stepping forward or back. And then leading on from that, that it's all relative, so it doesn't matter whether you take one step or two steps, so you're not giving it a scale from 1 to 10, you're just going to go near it or walk away. And it's got loads of applications for getting teams to open up to help shift their behaviours.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's the thing, is that's why we ask the feeling questions. So we put the feeling questions, and the second part of the question, which is, what's that like for you? What's that like? Is to make them think more, to make you and us, because it is difficult to own up to our own feelings, but to own up to the feeling of what it's like. Do you want to, anybody else? No? Okay.
Good. So hopefully we can start to see that there are, this is just one tool amongst many different facilitation techniques and a whole wealth of tools from the ORSC background, which can start to give us a rich way of actually engaging in a facilitated and structured way to for allow us to start expressing things that make us human beings and start to show up as a whole person. We've got a short video.
Yep.
It's only about 3 minutes long, but there was actually a lot more people who would have been in this video, but we cut it right down so that you're not sitting here for ages watching the video.
I'm so glad you're here at this meetup. I am really interested in a systemic coaching approach to Agile transformations. I have been for a long time, and now I'm going to be able to get to do some experiments with folks in your community. And I hope that what will happen is we'll create patterns that can be used throughout the Agile community so that these Agile transformations can have at least as much of a coaching approach as they do a consulting approach. There are ways forward. There are new possibilities that get born just from having more relationship systems intelligence. So bravo, we're on this train together.
People power all the improvement, not your practices. So engagement of your workforce is what actually scales, not your framework. People power all of the improvement, and they also power all of the impediments. So the largest question you could possibly ask any Agile salesman is, do my people have to be engaged for this stuff to actually work? You know, and then if they do, what is your plan for engaging my people? I created an engagement model called Open Space Agility. My feeling is if you use that or better, you will succeed with engaging your people.
That as a coach, we are doing the best service to our clients when we are simply a mirror for what's happening inside their system, where we simply reveal the system that they are operating in with all its warts, with all its beauty, because there is enough intelligence and wholeness. And certainly we don't have all the inside knowledge to figure out as coaches what the best thing is for clients to do. If we facilitate the process properly, it really helps the client come up with their own solutions that by definition they buy into and they can execute. And this makes a huge difference to the people that we work with to create lasting positive change for them.
You've probably heard about a lot of the research on high performance teams. You can define performance however you want. Maybe that's like more productive. Maybe that's like more joy. You know that some of the key elements to this are things like psychological safety and team emotional intelligence. And a really common next question is, okay, so how do I do more safety? How do I do more emotional intelligence, more team emotional intelligence? What are the specific things that can get us there? A lot of the things that get us there are things like core protocols, like just being able to know that it's safe to opt out of anything, that whatever you do, it's because you're opting in, it's because you want to do it. Sharing your emotional state, just being able to say, I feel happy, I feel mad, I feel glad. Practicing these sorts of things lead to a high sense of safety and obviously more emotional intelligence. These things lead to outcomes like more diversity, more diverse views being shared in the team. And you get a diversity of ideas in the team, sort of an ecosystem of ideas. It's funny to me growing up as a software developer that everything is actually about relationships between people. I used to think it was all about writing code and joke about relationships, but actually it's all about how we're relating with each other, how we're working together with each other.
What we're looking for in the next coming months is to run a program of events which are going to turn the meetup a little bit on its head. So I'm hoping that this is the last time. I mean, obviously there'll be a few meetups here and there where we'll have speakers come in and things like this, but we want to turn this on its head. Hopefully this is going to be the end of Sage on a Stage. This is the last time we're going to be up here presenting loads of stuff as the experts. From now on, we're going to run different facilitation techniques for engaging your teams, your programs. If you think about Agile as a product or software delivery, what is that system? How can we create that system in a room? We're going to be showing with various different people, some of the people you've seen on here, there'll be other people as well. We're going to be looking to create a program of events to teach you and anyone who wants to turn up how to facilitate this stuff, how to create safe spaces at work, how to create real systems which can relate to each other, and how you can coach them and not be the sage on the stage. So for that, what we're going to be looking for is some people who are really into this, who really want to embrace this, who want to volunteer, to come and help out, to learn this stuff, and in some cases have a go at facilitating yourself some of these techniques over the coming months and the coming year. If you are interested, there is a URL here, AWA LSF, which stands for Large Scale Facilitation. So if you want to go to this address, take a photo of it now or write it in a browser. If you're interested in participating in this, then when you go to that URL, you will find a form to fill out. It's only got about 3 fields on it, it's not an epic. If you would fill that out, then we will be in touch and we will hopefully be able to include everyone who wants to go, but certainly it will be sort of first come, first served and that kind of thing. So feel free to engage with that with us as a community so that we can truly create the wisdom from the community to solve our problems from now on, rather than the experts on the stage telling you how things are. We've all got such a massive wealth of information and knowledge and experience in this community, and we want to create something where we can learn from each other and learn the kind of techniques to bring that out, and that's what we're going to be doing from now Okay, so I'm assuming that those who want the URL, it's also, we're going to be, as we are filming it, you can check this out on YouTube in a few days. So support from, oh, we're seeing from Lisa again. Thank you, Lisa, that's awesome. Okay, so, yeah, it's awesome, isn't it? Okay, so we've done that, that's cool. And now we want to, so we do have some training classes as well on this kind of stuff. So there's AWA training classes, of which we've got a few dates here. You can check these out on the website. So we'll be running, some of you actually I've seen have been on those training classes, because I'm seeing lots of faces here have been on my classes. So we have some classes coming up which are around large-scale facilitation, and it's very specifically in the Agile space. And then also we have the ORS, or we, Nairy, I should say, has the, there's an intro course here. Do you want to say anything about that, Shahandra? Yeah.
It's a two-day introductory course into systems thinking, and you learn 6 great tools and 6 great skills that you can use straight away. That's on the 22nd and 23rd of November. If anyone's interested, please get in contact. Look forward to welcoming you.
Cool. Okay. Thank you. So I'm hoping that we can see that there is a different way forwards. We still need all of the agile and lean skills, understanding about organizational structure. We still need to understand about what a backlog is, and we need how to prioritize stuff, and we need all those things, absolutely, for sure. We're not taking away from that. This is individuals and interactions over processes and tools, and it's about time now we started learning about individuals and interactions, and figuring out from that we can figure out the processes and tools later. Thank you very much.